their case. So good morning, everybody. I'm Ron Hoon. This is Fox 10 Talks. We continue now on YouTube and on the Fox local app with the latest information in a lot of the day's big stories. So the question, of course, is, was it a mistake for her to not call a single witness? And now, what's the timeline moving forward? What's going to happen next? We are going to find out from Justin Lum, but first, here is what Lori Vallow Daybell said in court yesterday. Is this maybe her best or maybe even her one and only argument?
The lack of evidence to show any evidence of a conspiracy to commit murder. There was no plan to murder Charles. No evidence has showed that. In fact, evidence suggested self-defense on the part of Alex.
All right, so that was her as she was speaking to the judge yesterday in court. So Justin joins this morning. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Ron.
Let's talk just a little bit about it. Was that at the point where she was trying to get the case, either the case to be dismissed or a mistrial? Is that what was going on?
Yeah, it was sort of a Hail Mary right there.
Sure.
I mean, obviously the judge denied it because there is so much evidence that's come out that
Right.
a reasonable juror can possibly find her guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, but Lori is saying that there's no sufficient evidence that this was a conspiracy.
Okay, so was it a mistake or was it really her only option to not call a single witness? I mean, let's face it, the prosecution brought up what, 18, 19?
19.
Yeah.
And the prosecution was going to call 21, but instead they called 19. They ended with the state's, I guess, star witness here, Nathan Duncan, the detective for Chandler PD, the lead detective.
Is that him right there?
Yes.
Okay.
And so
Right.
he basically confirms all the text messages that he went through between Lori and Chad Daybell, her husband, who's on death row in Idaho, text messages to Alex Cox, the other co-conspirator in this case, who's now dead. So there's so much information that came out. The state may believe that that's all we need. We're going to end it right there. And we know that, who does Lori have? Who does she have to call? She's had issues giving subpoenas, serving people with subpoenas. People don't want to testify on her behalf. There's been delays and just a lot of issues as she's represented herself. So she really has no one to call. What evidence can she present?
You know, one of the things we actually haven't talked a lot about, though, is Alex Cox. For people who haven't followed the case that closely, he ultimately is the one who opened fire.
Yes.
I mean, what happened to him?
He died, according to the medical examiner's office, he died of natural causes December 2019, about 5 months after the fatal shooting of Charles Vallow. And he actually died the day after authorities exhumed the body of Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife, as they were finally going to start investigating her death. So that timeline is very strange to a lot of people, but according to the medical examiner, it was a natural death.
Okay. So the quote that we've spoken about so many times, it started in Arizona, it's going to end in Arizona. Tell us what happens next, whether anybody was really shocked that it all moved as quickly as it did. Doesn't look like, well, I mean, both sides have rested. We're not going to have 5 weeks of trial. What happens from here on out?
And here's the thing, she has to officially rest her case in front of a jury. So the state rested, the jury was excused for the day, and after she did this Rule 20 motion for acquittal that was denied, then she said she rested as well. But she has to officially do that in front of a jury because the jury doesn't know that she has rested. And so closing arguments are set for Monday. She has a very, very small window to really change her mind about testifying. That's her way of providing evidence or her side of the story. But why would she subject herself to being cross-examined by the prosecutor, to open herself up to questions, to pick apart and expose lies that have been told?
Yeah.
She calls this a family tragedy, and the evidence shows, according to the prosecution, that there's no evidence showing a fight happened, that self-defense happened. So her best bet is going to present her case in closings, where you don't get questioned at all.
Yeah. Okay. Syleste, I'm sure you've got a question or two, and I'm sure our viewers do as well.
Well, I think a lot of people in the chat box are sharing that a lot of the people involved in this case are dead.
Yes,
You know,
everyone in
and-
that house except Lori.
And that's crazy, right? It's wild. And so I think that's part of what makes this case and what's happening in the courtroom so intriguing as well.
Yeah. And what point is the jury going to ask where Tylee Ryan is? They don't know that Tylee's dead. They don't know that J.J. Vallow is dead. and that they were murdered by their mom. At least they're not supposed to know. They know that Alex is dead because Lori presented that at opening statements. But yes, you're right. Everyone in that home is now gone. And the only one that's died of a natural death is Alex Cox, the shooter in this case.
So you brought something interesting up, is that, so the jury doesn't know that, or they're not supposed to know that going in. At any point, is that something that is brought up in the courtroom? Like, or is that the prosecution's job to do something like that?
Now, the door could open if she decides to testify. There's a chance that the prosecution will bring up her convictions. The exact nature and the details we don't know, but they could find out that she has been convicted of crimes in another jurisdiction. So that's why I don't think that she's ultimately going to testify, but she still has that chance. If she wants to change her mind, she has to let the judge know very soon.
Okay, well, all along the way, Justin has really been our go-to guy on this, really since the case began. And you've helped everybody, I think, understand kind of the whole family tree, if you want to call it that, or I guess you could call it the tree of death, honestly. But Justin, next week will be fascinating. Now they're off tomorrow for Good Friday.
Yeah, they're off for the weekend. Today is jury instructions. The jury's not reporting today, so both parties are going to go over the questions and what the juries will see after they are presented with closing arguments and when they get the case. This is where we'll actually see Lori's lack of experience, because this is very important. But Prosecutor Trina Kay, she's going to, be on her P's and Q's, but this is not familiar territory for Lori. So it could be a quick day, but Monday, 10:30 a.m., that's a big day.
One last question, Ron, real quick. Percentage in terms of, and this is in the chat, lots of people are talking about this, what do you think the likelihood is that she would testify?
I think it's 1% right now. I
Yeah.
really do. If she would have, and the state asked her to rest her case in front of the jury, but the judge did give her that leeway to just think about it, take a night or two to think about it. But she was ready. She just said she rested her case. Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll see. It's 99.9% there for her.
Yeah.
Okay, Justin. Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
Always appreciate
Thank you,
your
Justin.
insight. Great reporting for sure. Another story we're following this morning. How about this post on True Social? This has set off some alarm bells in the world of politics, that is for sure, because President Trump said this would be a perfect time for Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. He is always late, but he can now change his image and quickly. Energy prices are down, interest rates are down, and then, by the way, and he even mentions eggs, the price of eggs starting to drop. Cut interest rates, Jerome, and stop playing politics. And then the next thing you know, he ends up posting later on True Social, check this one out, where he says that Jerome Powell's termination can't come fast enough, while calling for the central bank once again to cut interest rates. So Syleste, it actually gets us right to our poll question today, which is all about whether this can happen or should happen. And so here we go. We already have over 100 votes. And is it time for Jerome Powell to go?
Oh,
Go
many
ahead.
people, 59% of you say no. The Federal Reserve should be independent of politics. And that is winning. That's the
59%.
primary opinion of
Yep.
people voting in the poll this morning.
Uh-huh.
But who's his boss?
Jerome Powell?
Yeah, like who does
well,
he
he's supposed to be independent.
who does his review at the end of the year?
Well, apparently nobody. I don't know, maybe somebody over at Treasury. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people say Jerome Powell is the most powerful man in the country when it comes to the economy, because he really influences interest rates that much. Well, President Trump wants him lowering interest rates. I mean, interest rates are back above 7% for you trying to get a mortgage. People were hoping they were going to start coming down. Anyway, other options, 14%. Hey, the president should try to fire him right now. There's a court case in front of the Supreme Court as to whether or not a president can actually do that. And the Supreme Court could rule at any time. Can you fire an independent head of an agency? 16% say, yeah, but he ought to do it. Just do it the right way, make the decision to step down. It's time for somebody new. And 10% are saying, if you would just be patient, the president not too long from now gets to pick a new chairman of the Federal Reserve. In fact, even though that's still many months away, he could announce who his choice is. So you can certainly vote in our poll question.
Liberal Nightmare in the chat is saying, send him packing. Sometimes I wonder when you're looking at somebody like Jerome Powell, like in the federal offices, jurisdiction, do they really understand what people are going through in like the cities around the country on Main Street?
Oh, yeah.
Do you really understand that like it's hard to put food on the dinner table? Do you really understand that somebody can't afford to buy their first home because interest rates?
When you're having your meetings in Davos, Switzerland,
or you're on a plane
or Sun Valley, Idaho,
to Dubai,
right?
Sun Valley, Idaho, perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild.
I know a lot of people talk about it, that's for sure. Hey, we have some new information that's been coming in now about the apparent motive in that vicious arson attack on the Pennsylvania governor's family and the governor's mansion. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but the man who's now been charged with setting that fire says, apparently he said this, he called 911, but to turn himself in to say what his motive was, because he didn't like the governor's stance on Gaza. And this is now, the information is now coming out, and according to a warrant and a police affidavit, Cody Ballmer called 911 to confess that he had committed the crime. He set it on fire. He said he did it. And then he said that he told the 911 operator that he believed Governor Shapiro, who is Jewish, was encouraging the war in Gaza, and that he needs to stop having my friends killed, and quote, our people have been put through too much by that monster, as if Josh Shapiro, the governor of a state, is calling all the shots as to what's going on there.
Yeah,
doesn't really make sense.
It sounds bizarre.
It really does. But at least now we know a little bit more maybe about kind of what was really going on in terms of the motive.
Yes.
We are already 13 minutes in, so we're going to go to the mystery cam.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, this is going to be a hard one, Celeste.
Where is this in the country? Because it's dark.
It might be out of the country. All right, you guys can guess as well. I don't know, maybe we can brighten it up. This could be anywhere in the world.
Iris up.
We'll be right back. And we're back looking at certainly the most mysterious in the history of mystery cams, the most mysterious mystery cam of them all, because who knows? All we know is that in about the last hour or even half hour,
Yes.
they went straight into sunset mode and then darkness.
Right. So Lisa Dinsmore says Australia.
Okay.
We've got a France from Frank and Duke. Lindemont Turt says Hawaii. We've got a Denmark as well from new folks. By the way, welcome to the chat. If you're chiming in for the first time, Omaha, Nebraska is in the house. Lynn Harton says, brand new to the chat.
Lynn.
So Lynn, let us know what your thoughts are on this.
Thank you.
We've got.
We love our new viewers.
We do.
So if you're first time watching, we do this every morning on YouTube and the Fox local app starting right at 10 a.m.
Yes.
Celeste and I get you through all the most interesting stories of the day. And we especially love it when you jump onto the chat because guess what? This is a friendly chat. As opposed to like every other one that's out there, which is sometimes like so negative.
And it's very combative sometimes,
Correct.
you know?
Yeah, right. If we
They're
get
like almost like yelling at you.
If we get a troll, he's or she is forced off in like 2 minutes.
All of you in the chat are
Yeah,
like, you
right.
need to go.
It is like
Yes.
hasta la vista, baby.
Okay,
Anyway,
so Tyler Lewis says he sees a palm tree.
okay. He
So
does?
that's what he says.
Okay.
That he says that. Okay, so he says he was going to say Alaska, but now he thinks it's Hawaii.
Okay.
And by the way, Becky Warwicki, is that right? Let
Yeah.
me put my readers on, Ron.
Right,
My
okay, fine.
goodness. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Warwickery is in Vegas. She's
You're the
chiming in
first
from
person
Vegas.
I've ever known who at the age of 29
Thank
has
you,
to
Ron.
wear readers.
Ron, these are dupes. Get that? Those expensive dupes.
Oh, nice. What are they supposed to be?
Like
Ray-Bans?
some
or
like
something?
like some high-end peepers. I think they call them
Okay.
peepers.
Oh, is that right?
Not
Okay.
peeping toms.
Okay, what are you going to go with, Celeste, for the mystery can?
I'm gonna go with Romania.
Okay, which is right on the edge of the Balkans. You're still fascinated. Aren't you like 1% Balkan?
Yes, I'm 1% Balkan, Ron.
Okay, our audience may never have known that before. We like to reveal a lot of personal information. Okay, so we have Romania, and I'm going to go. I do think that I saw like some mountains, kind of.
Okay.
I think I'm going to go Spain. I mean, I have no
Oh,
idea.
España.
It's somewhere in Europe. So we have Romania and Spain. And ladies and gentlemen, here comes the answer.
Here's the mystery cam. All right. Cape Town, South Africa.
Oh, is that
That's actually
right?
that's very difficult.
Yeah.
This, Ron, we should pull it up one more time.
Okay.
This is very difficult.
Correct.
Like, it could easily have been half of the world.
Yeah, we have so many brilliant people here, but think about it. You know, I mean, we had at least Tyler, I think, said he saw a palm tree, so
Yeah.
that could be the case for sure. Anyway, everybody, thanks for spending time with us here on this streaming show. We do it for you every Monday through Friday. There's a lot of talk, Celeste, about what's been going on in the cannabis industry. You know, 420 is coming up, April the 20th.
Ron, what's 420 mean? And are you a cannabis expert?
No. I can honestly say I haven't been into any of our dispensaries.
I have, and it was by accident.
Oh, really? What did you think you were going into?
Well, there's this location in Phoenix, and it looks from the outside like a boutique. And I thought they sold candles and stuff in there. And I was like, oh, it's called Sunday Goods.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, wow, okay, Sunday Goods. You know, I'm
Okay,
driving home
like,
after church.
About
and I'm
what
thinking,
street was this on,
it's on Glendale and
Celeste?
16th Street.
Okay.
I know exactly where it is because I walked right in.
Okay.
And I was
Good.
like, wow, this looks really cute. It's like
Right.
very nice outside. Looks like a brand new boutique.
Yeah.
I could probably stop and get a candle or something.
Right.
And I walk in and there are no candles.
Yeah.
There are no candles in that
Right.
shop.
Well, you know, it's
And it's
legal
the-
now. Didn't you buy some for like a friend who's a pot smoker?
Well, I mean, it had a tender smell. It just wasn't the smell I was looking for.
All right, well, let's talk just a little bit about it because here's 420, and they're actually hoping business picks up because the industry in Arizona last year, 2024, $1.2 billion as a gross. That's for all of the dispensaries
Yes.
around the state, but it's down 15% from 2022. And I wanted to ask you, Celeste, if you have any ideas why the numbers are dropping.
Oh, interesting. Maybe it's because the economy is not doing so great and people are watching the bottom line.
Yes,
Maybe.
sure. There's been some speculation that competition now that all the dispensaries are out there, and if the economy is softening a little bit, maybe there's some price adjustment going on. I don't know for sure, but if there's enough competition, prices generally do drop. And so maybe it's not the volume that's dropping, but the prices that are dropping.
So what about when you say cannabis, you're including not just the gummies or the brownies, but you're including all the products.
All the products,
yeah.
But then there was also a report in Daily Mail just a few days ago about a study that came out that said scientists have seen a link between long-term pot smoking and an elevated risk for dementia. Later in life. Because, I mean, it's been around long enough now that we
can do some studies.
Yes.
Although the pot I think that people probably smoked, in like the 70s is probably different than what they smoked in the 90s, and is probably different than what they smoke today.
Yeah.
I mean, they grow it differently. They have the hydroponics now. They can control the amount of THC in each of the plants. Don't ask me how I know so much, Ron. Continue on.
Okay. If you buy stuff, have you ever bought anything, Celeste, from Temu?
I have not, but I've been tempted.
Okay.
Because
what was it?
Everything's like 99 cents.
I know. Well, this is the thing. They're having to raise their prices, but literally so much is 99 cents. So what if it's 145% tariff? Help me with the math, Celeste. That would then mean instead of 99 cents, it'd be about $2.35.
Correct.
Right. So what?
Well, here.
I mean, it's a much bigger deal if you're trying to import a car from China than it is. But they're saying they and Shein. I had two options. I both got them wrong. But they're going to raise their prices starting on the 25th of this month.
So this is, to me anyways, Ron, okay, we talked about this a little bit earlier on the show.
Yeah.
Some of these items, if you wash them, they fall apart, okay? My question is, how much are they paying the people that produce these items?
Yeah.
Because if you're charging 99 cents for a blouse,
yeah,
how much is that person making?
Are you sure blouses are 99? You sure they're not like 129?
I think they might be like $2.99.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, but it's $3.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think they could literally double most of their prices, and they're still going to undercut.
They're still going to make a lot of money.
Here. By the way, the administration says, one of the key people with the administration gave an interview this morning.
Yes.
And said they have several countries they're actively working with, and he wouldn't say when they're going to have deals announced, but they're actually getting close. Do you remember that post that I think it was Don Jr. put up, who said, if it was me, I would negotiate soon with my dad, with the president. I've seen this movie my entire life. The last in line are going to get the worst deals. The first are going to get the best deals. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of attention on Japan, and today there's a lot of attention on Italy, which you're going to find out about that when we hear from Griff Jenkins, truly one of the great Fox News reporters.
Yes.
That's coming up in our next segment.
You know, it brings up something, though, that I was thinking, okay, so if you have these tariffs on certain countries, are we going to then see a higher price on sushi? Think of the salmon that's imported from Japan.
Okay.
Or olive oil. Think what's imported from Italy.
Do you know, when my wife and I were in Italy a few years ago, the guy said, please look at the back of your olive oil bottle.
Oh.
Because not as many say bottled in Italy or a product of Italy anymore. You know where they're coming from more and more?
Where's that?
Tunisia.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, it all kind of tastes the same to me. I buy a lot of different olive oil. I have an olive oil right now at my desk.
Do you? What kind?
It's a Bertolli product. It's not one of your more expensive ones.
Are you drinking it from the bottle? What's happening?
Sure. They say it's so healthy for you. Why don't I guzzle that instead of another Diet
We
Coke?
need to bring a doctor in to
don't get me started on aspartame. RFK Jr.'s been in office for like 3 months. Come on. What's happening with the aspartame? Anyway. Barnes & Noble, Celeste, let's move on.
I love this next story.
We now know, so they've already announced they're going to do 60 new stores, and we told you yesterday we would do some digging for you so you would know where, if you're watching here in Phoenix, I know we have a worldwide audience, but we now know where that store is going to be, and it's 20th Street in Camelback. So that's right in that. I'm trying to think. There's an In-N-Out burger there. There's a Fry's grocery store.
There's a Panera Bread. There's a PetSmart.
Yeah.
There's Old Navy.
Is there
Last
a big
Chance.
empty building that they would move right into? I can't. It seems like every piece of land is already kind of spoken for there.
Barnes and Noble,
Yeah.
right next to the In-N-Out.
That's also the
Are you sure
Town
it's-
and Country
is
is
it-
in that area, right?
Oh yes, maybe that's where I saw the sign.
Okay.
There's a lot of little shops that are vacant in Town and Country.
Right.
Wow, what a great location.
Celeste, what would you do if you were walking down the street and you saw this? This poor raccoon is having the worst day of his life.
Oh, so
Okay.
sweet.
So
First I'd
Massachusetts.
scream.
Pardon?
First I'd scream, and then I'd go, "How cute!"
Look at this poor guy. But now here's the hero of our story. A regular Joe just walking by, and he said, maybe I've got something that could help, because the police were kind of flummoxed about it all. I don't know if firefighters were even called, but the Holyoke police took these pictures, and that guy said, you know what? Let me try some detergent pods.
Oh,
He had those
no.
pods, and he said I could kind of, I guess, rub them together and create a lubrication. And they got him out.
Wow,
We love happy
what a great
stories.
idea.
Yeah.
The laundry pods. Wow, helping to free the little guy.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
so
sure.
sweet.
I don't even know who that guy is, but he is the hero to our story. Celeste, you just keep, I see you clickety-clacking away. Who else are you talking to?
So we are
today?
chatting, by the way, they're talking about Temu. They're
Oh,
talking
yeah?
about stuff that it says, I have bought on Temu, Patricia Randolph says, just a couple of things because it seemed a good deal. I still use a couple of things I got from Temu, but I would say the quality is not the greatest. And I agree with you 1,000%. Mr. Paul Valine said Temu is great stuffing stalker ideas. And just like little video games, Mr. Paul Valine says he's purchased magic trick stuff. Oh, he does magic. And a USB
Mr.
mic.
Paul Valine does magic?
I don't know. He says he buys magic trick stuff.
Maybe it's like for his kids or his grandkids.
Or maybe he's
Tell
got-
us all about it, Mr. Paul Valine. We
Maybe
wanna
he
know
has
more.
a side hustle.
Uh-huh.
Maybe he's a magician.
Sure.
Maybe he wants to be like David Copperfield.
Okay.
Is that the guy that disappears or cuts people in half?
Do we remember where Mr. Paul Valine is from? Have we asked him?
I don't know. Mr. Paul Valine, please let us know.
Okay, we have to take a break, but Griff Jenkins, you're going to hear from him, one of Fox's great reporters. That's coming up after the break.
200.
Great.
10:30 and we're back, and you are looking at one of the most beautiful cities on the planet. I'm looking to see that seaplane. It just took off. Don't know if you can see that there on the bottom of the screen, but that's Vancouver, British Columbia. And if you ever go, believe it or not, my wife and I honeymooned in Vancouver. And that's called Stanley Park right there, and they have this great collection of old totem poles as a nod to the to the great Native American heritage in that part of Western Canada. It's just such a beautiful city. And yes, what are you looking at there? That is a floating gas station. I think it's for both boats and seaplanes, because they have seaplanes coming in all day in beautiful Vancouver, BC. If you check out the headlines on our YouTube page before we ever even go on the air, one of the headlines that is just so shocking, but it is something that we did want to tell you about, because in this business we say every single day there are stories that you hear about that you just can't believe, number one, and that you've never heard of before. And that's exactly what happened with this situation. Here's the mugshot. This guy is said to be an ex-con with a violent past, and now he's back behind bars. And this is a script that comes straight out of Fox 10, a warning that the details are graphic on what this guy did. But officers say Daniel Lanks, 39 years old, went up behind his victim. This was just last Friday at about 48th Street and Broadway. At this point, the reporting doesn't really indicate what set him off, but he managed, I guess, to pinch the guy's eyeball and squeeze into his eye socket, and he ripped his eyeball, his right eyeball, out with his hand. So when the police showed up, I don't know if he was still holding the eyeball. It's unbelievable. He's also accused of hitting the guy so hard he fractured his jaw. So the police did capture him on the other side of town, about 23rd Avenue and Dunlap, but he's going to face a felony count of aggravated assault. And I mean, we report on aggravated assaults all the time, but if you literally steal a guy's eyeball out of his eye socket, I don't know. It seems like maybe there should be more charges than just an aggravated assault. That poor guy's going to be partially blind, it sounds like, in the coming months. So we watch for you quite consistently what is going on in Washington. We know you're interested. Our audience is very politically savvy. And so there's a report from Fox this morning that is really very interesting here. I'm going to take you there right now, show you a live picture so we can get some moving about in the studio. President Trump gave an interview to I believe it was Fox Noticias, to talk about he's been thinking about it. He thinks that it was Jill Biden that was influencing President Biden more than anyone else. You know, he had a number of different very close advisors, a kind of a close circle that he's had around him for a very long time. But you know, if you remember, he ran for president as the guy who was going to bring the whole country together. And then a lot of people said once he got into office, he promoted a lot of the more kind of liberal ideas within the party. And people were wondering, where does that influence come from? Well, it's interesting because he gives this interview to Fox, and he said, the host, by the way, Rachel Campos Duffy, asked whether he believed that Jill Biden was basically running the show, if he was Joe Biden's, quote, auto pen. And the president said, no, I don't think so. But he said she was certainly involved because he gave her the last meeting to preside over the cabinet. So he's not saying it was that way for the whole 4 years, but he is saying, at least for the last phase, maybe post-debate, at least the last few months, he thinks that perhaps she was every bit as in charge as President Biden, and we did see, some of his cognitive abilities start to decline. So, just an interesting story to talk about, but also, the Italian Prime Minister, President, has arrived in Washington, And the question is she going to be able to convince President Trump to actually start to maybe soften his stance on all these tariffs on Europe? So Fox's Griff Jenkins has the latest in this report.
Well, buona fortuna, Ron. That's good luck in Italian, and it may be exactly what Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni will need today at the White House. Now, she's seen by some as a key voice in Trump's ear, and she's hoping to ease rising trade tensions with the global markets on edge. A high-stakes trade environment, and the Fed is holding the line. Chairman Jerome Powell says they're not rushing to raise or lower rates just yet, not with so much uncertainty in play.
Markets are orderly and they're functioning kind of as you would expect them to in this time of high uncertainty.
That uncertainty, it starts with tariffs. The Trump administration is still locked in a trade standoff with China, with more duties potentially on the horizon.
It's not just about China and U.S., it's the impact on the rest of the world. They want to be able to trade within the global trading system. So we have to absolutely find a way to avoid, this fragmentation.
At the same time, the U.S. is negotiating a major trade deal with Japan. The White House wants better access for American cars and crops, but critics warn it could come at a cost.
I think prices on all of those things that we import are going to be going up, at least for the very, foreseeable future.
Markets have been bracing for a rate cut. Inflation is low and growth is cooling. But Powell says the Fed won't move unless the data demands it.
For the time being, we are well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy stance.
But the Dow closed down more than 700 points as investors reacted to the uncertainty surrounding trade and interest rates. And that's not amore, as they say in Italian. We'll have to wait and see, Ron, what the markets do today.
Okay, so there's Griff Jenkins for us. Griff, talking a little bit about it. Let's see what is happening right. By the way, at the end of the interview, when I was Q&Aing with Griff, I asked him, "Do you really speak a lot of Italian?" And he said, "No, those are my two phrases. That's all I got for you." But let's see what's going on in the world of stocks right now. We've seen a number of days where the market really starts off at a really bad mood and then gradually kind of improves. Yesterday was down almost 1,000 points, and it still closed with a loss of 699. I mean, it was still bad, but it came back 200 or 300 points. And we've been down well over 500 points today. And a lot of this now, I can just tell you, has to do with the fact that now there's some uncertainty about Jerome Powell. And that was our poll question, is should he step down? Should the president try to fire him? There's a case before the Supreme Court right now that, depending on how it goes, might actually allow the president the latitude to do that. Or should he just stay in the job and not cave to any kind of political pressure? That's today's poll question for you. But there's something else I wanted to just kind of present to you today, which we're calling this the Poll Q Re-Q, and it has to do with this. As you know, every day we launch our poll questions a little bit before we go on the air with the streaming show, and when we do, we start to get an almost immediate response. People have a lot of strong opinions. Frequently, these poll questions are related to politics in terms of what's kind of the big talk that day. And we had an especially responsive audience a couple of days ago when we were talking about the whole situation with Kilmar Abrego Garcia being held. And the administration says he's not coming back. They're saying he has connections to MS-13, that he got into the country illegally, that he's not just, quote, a Maryland father, that there's a lot more to the story. And so when we ran this poll question, I think on the day of, we were at about 5,000 votes. We're now to, and it just continues to grow. I mean, it's got a life of its own. When Dave, our executive producer, and I were talking about this maybe an hour and a half ago, we were at 7,600 votes. We're now over 7,700 votes. And the question was pretty simple. Should the U.S. return him? And look how close it was running. 44% said yes, now return him. The president needs to obey the courts. You're going to get an argument from the president on that. I mean, we're supposed to have 3 co-equal branches of government, and the argument coming out of the administration right now is that's not really the case. Any judge that any interest group can find that will rule in their favor and against the president can stop in its tracks, or at least try to stop in his tracks, the things that he thinks he was elected to do. So 44% say yes, president's got to obey those courts. Everybody else has to. Why not him too? But 47% say no, the courts are interfering with his foreign policy. Remember Marco Rubio in the White House the other day and said this is a foreign policy matter. It involves another country, and the courts have no say-so or any kind of jurisdiction in terms of what a president can decide when he's dealing with another country. So that was that argument. And then about 8% said, well, at least bring him back for a hearing and let a judge decide. We always try to give you multiple options in our poll questions, and that's how it was running. So one of the things, we really appreciate your comments on all of this. Of course, we love the live chat right there. It's great to see what you guys are talking about. But then people will drop down after they vote on the poll on the YouTube page, and here are just what a few of them had to say. Christine Hare says, we must have laws, we must obey them. The Constitution is the rule of our country, and it most certainly is not a monarchy led by authoritarianism. So then Dana Phipps got on and said it had been ruled by 2 judges that he should be deported twice. What is so difficult to understand? Then let's see some of the others. Chris Constantian said, he is not a U.S. citizen. He is El Salvadorian. Remember, that's where he came from. That's where he left to get into the U.S. illegally originally. Let's see. Deplorable Son, 1776 says, he is a citizen of the country he's being held in. He's been identified by a court as MS-13. He is not a citizen of the U.S., and the president of his country won't let him out. So just a lot of really good feedback from you guys. Time to take a break. We're back with Syleste in 2 minutes. Back. We are once again taking a look at the incredible city of Vancouver, British Columbia. Syleste, I was just talking with Dave, our executive producer. He grew up in the Great Northwest just like me. Did you know that?
Yeah, we were chatting. He grew up in Bellevue, right, Dave?
Yeah, he's a Bellevue man, but he never drove up to Vancouver.
You've never been there?
I'm working on him.
Wow.
Working on him. It's a great city.
It is a great city. There's lots of shopping. Take your wife.
Yeah. Oh, and the Canadian dollar is super low. So you
is it
walk in
really?
and you see something for $29. Now I'm going to get myself in trouble with bad math. But let's say it's $30 Canadian, and you're like, okay, that's a decent price. Well, once you do the computation, that's probably closer to like $20 US. Or $22, $23 US. So you feel like you're getting a big discount.
So you're saying we should go to Vancouver to purchase the new Louis Vuitton or Chanel bag versus purchasing it in Washington State?
No. What I'm saying is go to Vancouver and get on a computer and buy your Temu products there.
Oh, wow. Then everything's 25 cents.
Yeah, that's a good question. Would it be cheaper if you bought it in Canada, even though it's a Temu thing? Who knows?
I do have to say in Vancouver, they have a great Chinatown.
Yes,
when
they
we were
do.
there, we had dumplings at this Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
And my kids speak Mandarin. That's a longer story. But
Yes.
everything was in Mandarin on the menus. And they were able to chat with the servers and like the hostess at the restaurant.
Well, that's
it was
super
cool. Yeah.
Well, when it comes to food items, we love to talk about it. That's for sure, here on the streaming show. My question this morning, I kind of think the way we put it on our main YouTube page is this a brilliant idea or stupid? Syleste, here it is. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So Pringles is about to release a couple of new flavors. One is called beer can chicken potato chips.
Beer can, not beer chicken.
Right. So they want you to know it's not like a beer battered thing. It's a beer can.
Like it tastes like the can, like aluminum?
I don't know, like you pulled the chicken,
I
like
mean,
like you were sautéing the chicken in the beer can.
Who's the marketing executive that said, yeah, okay, Ben, run with it?
Well, or the grilled beer brats.
Okay.
Potato chips.
Now that could work.
Oh, is that right?
I
Okay,
think that
all right.
might be okay with the mustard brat, covered brat.
So here's the way. You know, you were just asking about the marketing people.
Yes.
Here, let's go with it. They describe it as. To me, this is like they came up with kind of an idiotic idea, but they said at least let's put some lipstick on this pig. They said the flavor has a smoky grilled flavor of brats with quote notes of black pepper, caramelized onion, and a brown spice. Well, now that sounds good, doesn't it?
Well, when you say it the way you said it does.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the shopper's going to take that long to look.
Well, Mr. Pavline says these do not sound good.
Right. This could be like our second poll question of the day. Syleste.
Yes, Ron.
If beyond potato chips, what's your favorite? Do you just like a generic Lay's potato chip? Or are you
talking brands or are you talking like type of? I do love like
types and brands.
Types and brands.
Go for it. Yeah.
I'm gonna do like a Boulder Canyon. These are my new faves. Boulder Canyon salt and vinegar chip.
Okay.
And I like to dip that into a cottage cheese. And
Really?
sometimes I'll put
Salt
a little
and vinegar dipped into cottage cheese?
Yeah, as my dip. And sometimes I'll put a little Cavender's. You know, it's that Mediterranean spice.
Okay.
All you on the chat box, let me know if you know what Cavender's is.
Oh,
We
let's
do that.
ask them right now.
Yeah.
What is their favorite potato chip?
And as they're answering, Ron, I want to get to this real quick because I said, we're talking about Vancouver and how beautiful it is. And I said, what's your favorite place to visit? Kim Winnett says, for me, it's a toss-up between London or Paris. She's been to both. And Ron, like you, she loves history.
Yeah. By the way, my opinion on that is Paris is the most romantic city, but London is the most exciting city.
Ooh.
Every corner you turn is something really cool.
Have you ever walked on that crosswalk where the Beatles took that photo?
Abbey Road.
Yeah, Abbey Road. Yes. Was it? Did you stand in the middle and go, "Oh my goodness, the Beatles have been
I
here"?
think you know this, but I have my own YouTube channel. You guys can go check it out. It's called Ron Hoon History, and I actually shot one of my history videos there
At Abbey Road?
right at Abbey Road Studios.
Wow, so awesome.
When I was there last year.
I was
So-
watching the this very cool like Coffee and Cars or whatever with one of those comedians.
Yeah.
And they had Paul McCarthy in,
Oh,
the,
wow.
in the car.
Wow.
And they're singing these Beatles songs. And the comedian says, forgot his name. The comedian says, thank you. What'd you say? James Corden, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
James Corden says, my dad loved this song. And he would have been so amazed if he was in this car with us as we're singing it together. And Paul McCarthy goes, he is.
Ah.
And for a moment, I was
Ooh.
like, oh my gosh, I had
Yeah.
goosebumps. I was
Did
like,
you cry at Coffee and Cars in that situation?
I
Celeste?
did. I did.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Well, anyway, we'll see how all that all plays out. But at
By
least,
the way,
you know,
Ron,
yeah.
Frankie D says Ron is a genius.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe we should find a shirt
Frankie
that
D.
says "I am a genius."
Yeah. Well,
and
I
give
like
it to
to
you.
have a story about any town in America, at least, and a few on the other side of the country,
Yes.
or the other side of the world. Celeste,
Yes.
talk about adorable video. Here we go. The baby elephant yesterday made his zoo debut at the Oregon Zoo in Portland. Now, as far as babies go,
What a ham.
I don't know if you remember like the poundage, you know, how much like when your kiddos were born.
Okay.
But this little
Albies.
baby girl, I think she is.
She's so cute.
Yeah, well, is 400 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Got to be a difficult delivery. 400 pounds, right? Even for an elephant.
I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
The woman's body is amazing, Ron.
Yes,
you
it
can
is.
deliver the baby, and then it shrinks pretty much all
Yeah.
the way back.
Yeah. Okay, well, congrats to the folks at the Oregon Zoo. And the thing that's so cool is she is like totally hanging with Mama. I mean, she wants to be like no more than 2 inches away from Mama. That is for sure. So I just thought that was pretty cute. The other thing that's neat is her mom was born at this zoo.
Yes.
And so was
Aw.
Grandma. They've been around at that zoo for that long. It's really apparently a really good zoo. I haven't been there yet, but one to check out for sure.
So cute.
So Celeste,
Yes, sir.
we are now doing a little segment here in our 1 hour presentation. Ty and
Yes.
Anita, by the way, coming up here in about 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What did you know? These are our days.
Okay.
Ready? It is National Cheese Ball Day.
Love that.
Do you remember there was, remember that store? It was called Hickory Farms.
I do
When you were a
remember.
kid, they were in all malls.
Yes.
And they like specialized in cheese balls.
Well, you can still find cheese balls, Ron.
Can you?
You can
Where
find
would
them
you go now?
at Fry's.
Is that right?
Yeah, they have them in the cheese section.
Okay.
Where you pick up the Gouda
Okay.
and you pick up the blue cheese.
All right.
And right next door is the cheese ball.
It is also National Ford Mustang Day. Have
Oh.
you ever had a Mustang or a Ford or anybody in your family? Any of that kind
I
of
have
thing?
not, no. I have
No?
not had a
Yeah,
Ford Mustang.
Neither have I.
But they look pretty cool.
Yeah, and the really souped up ones now
Yeah.
can sell for, you know, that are true vintage and are just spotless, can sell up at Barrett Jackson for some unbelievable figures.
Well, the vintage are back in. Look at the Broncos.
Oh, good point.
Right? And Broncos
Yes.
have totally, the
Right.
sales have skyrocketed.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, you know, some people are holding on to them, that's for sure, and if they take really good care of them. Now, Celeste, it's also National Pizza Cake Day. This, I don't know if you've even heard of it, but
Pizza
apparently
cake.
a pizza cake was invented by the big pizza chain up in Canada. Do you happen to know what the name of the big pizza chain? You know, Tim Hortons, they're the big
Tim
donut
Hortons
shop.
coffee and donuts,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know what the big pizza chain is in Canada?
No.
It's called Boston Pizza.
Okay.
Which is weird.
Because it's Canada.
It's an American city.
Yeah, maybe they should have called it like Toronto.
But they invented this thing at the Boston Pizza location. I've been to the one in Calgary, but I haven't been to the one in Edmonton, and they created a thing called a pizza cake.
And what is it?
It's 6 pizzas stacked on top of each other
Oh my goodness.
to almost look like a cake. If you stack them perfectly,
So
it
is
looks
it
like a cake.
thin crust or thick?
The picture that I saw was kind of thin crust. Yeah.
And does it matter what kind it is, or can you make your own, or you purchase the cake?
I would think you'd want it to all be the same.
I mean,
Wouldn't you?
Maybe you have like a layer of veggie and a layer of meat, a layer of veggie pizza, a layer of meat.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Extra sauce, cheese,
Right.
I don't know.
But I mean, if you're doing like sausage and mushroom on the first one, and then you're doing like a nice Hawaiian on the next one. I mean, oh, you like the sound
I
of that?
love Hawaiian pizza. I
Oh,
know.
I do too.
It's
I
like
do
one
too.
it's one of those things I know people either you love it or you hate it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Oh, real quick, here are the rest of our days. It's National Blah 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 Day, which
Blah,
is
blah, blah.
appreciating the value of small talk.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yeah. And it's also Bat Appreciation Day. Have you ever had an encounter with a bat?
I have not.
Okay.
Fortunately.
Yeah.
You, Ron?
Yes. So back in the day, I rafted down the Grand Canyon and got out at Phantom Ranch.
Okay.
And they have, I think this might have been pre-cell phone. It was a long time ago. But they had a payphone, an outside payphone, like your first chance to communicate with the outside world. And I was on the payphone talking to my wife Renee, and a bat like zoomed right by my face, and I'm like, thank goodness for the sonar.
Wow.
Because it was so dark, I don't think if he was using regular eyeballs, he would have seen me, but they have this built-in sonar.
I think you buried the lead, Ron. The fact that you called your wife at the bottom of the Grand Canyon
Yeah,
over
sure.
everyone else,
There's
what a
one
good
little
man.
payphone. I hope it's still there.
No wonder you're still married.
Yeah,
all
okay.
these years.
All right. So we are going to, to me, this is my favorite story of the whole day. And so we're going to wrap up with this right now. It's the guy who, stand by, is been working at Denny's forever.
No business was hiring developmentally disabled adults. It just was unheard of. So Miss Turner, our founder, kept coming here till they said yes. It took him about 6 months, and Barney just blossomed.
Garbage.
The garbage is best?
Yep. The floor too.
And the floors.
Secret too.
Keep them clean.
Yep.
What about the customers? You get to know some friends when they come in? What's that like? They know you.
Yeah, give me a tip money too.
They give you tips.
That is so great. He works for 47 years he's been working at that Denny's there at 7th and Camelback. So we salute him. And he's just about as good as they get. Look who's joining us.
Why are you so close?